And so now we're going to get a little more technical about the project itself. If I can make my thing advance again, there we are. So this close-up is a close-up of the brown rug, and it shows that the yarn is plied using 2 different colors. At first, I thought this might indicate that the sisters were using commercially produced yarn at this time, and they may well have been. But Beverly Gordon also talks about, when she talks about how the design and the subtle use of color was structural, she had talked later about they would ply yarns, fibers of 2 different colors to get different colors into their weaving. And so really zooming in, just a picture with my phone on one of these rugs, you can see that the yarn is plied. You can also see that the seaming is done with some green thread and some black thread. So I think she's using up some leftovers and stuff here. I also chose this because it's not perfect. And as I struggled along with my own piece of work, I found this sort of encouraging. And I thought back to the quote about do all your work as if you had 1,000 years to live, but if you knew you would die tomorrow. And I began to understand that in a different way. At some points I was a little flippant, like, all right, well, I could die. This is good enough. But I think for the Shakers, it also meant that pursuit of pure perfection also might have been a little bit of a pursuit of vanity, and they were always trying to make their community better and make it and help each other live better. So I think at some point you do the best work you can do, but you also have to finish the project. And I think that we see that in how wonderful her rugs are at the end, but if you look closely, they're not absolutely perfect. I also thought at one point that maybe she was using loom waste to make these, because I was trying to with balls of yarn and carry them, and it was a mess. And I started just cutting long strips of yarn to use with the colors, and I thought maybe it was loom waste, but a really good weaver pointed out to me that there would have been a lot of knots in that. So that's one of those examples of, depending on how much we know, we take different guesses about what may or may not have been true. This is a close-up of the center of the brown rug, and I wanted to share because you can really see here the spirals that extend out. And when I was trying to figure out how she got these to sit flat, I was so interested that you can see that it's definitely not a straight strip. It definitely curves, but you can follow these garter strip ridges all the way across, and they don't seem, there's no, you don't see a knit 2 together, and you don't see somebody passed one over. It never interrupts the color pattern. And I found that
garter is so flexible.
This is a picture of my work, such as it is, but I hoped it would help. So what everybody should have received the pattern and instructions, and what I got this to work, I did it by sort of using a modified short row, in that I just, on every other right side row, I skipped the last stitch. And I didn't even do a wrap and turn the way you do, or a German short row where you try to hide the hole. I just turned around and went back. And it makes it a little stretched on this side, but it mimicked that you saw the garter strip go all the way across and back. I included this one because I wanted trying to carry the yarn and avoid the weaving in ends, or avoid weaving in ends was not at all manageable. And I remembered that we're going to put a backing on it. So I will tell you that I did not weave in a single end. I just cut them and left them and sewed them into the backing on the other side. And because Sister Elvira's rugs are permanently affixed to hang in the collection, and I can't imagine anybody unraveling or taking apart her work, we'll never know whether she wove her ends in or not. So I'm choosing to believe that she did not. Putting them together, it seemed very unwieldy to me all the way through, but at each step, it sort of came together and began to make more sense and feel more stable. When I was trying to sew the spirals together, I just pinned them to a blocking board so that I didn't have to hold them in one place. I think you could do that on a pillow and a mattress if that's what you have nearby, and then stitch them together. When I moved on to a concentric circle, I sewed the seam way up here and then promptly realized that it was not at all the right size. And after a moment of despair, I stretched the middle a little bit and then scrunched up the garter stitches on the edge and just pinned it all right side together like that. And it worked just fine. It was very, very forgiving. So when I flipped it then right side down, I tucked all the ends in and pinned some cut out of an old piece of jeans on it and sewed that on and never ever weaved in an end. The braiding around the side, I think if I were to do it again, I think I would do the braiding first and then let my backing go all the way, at least sort of to the center of the braid. I felt like maybe I needed to have the stability of the denim before I did the braid, before I put the braid on. But I think having done it once that I don't think I would. I think I would go ahead and do the braid first and then have my backing cover the whole thing more neatly. It got bigger a little faster than I expected it to. So if you're thinking about doing something with a lot of intricate color work, remember that when yarn is wider, it's a little bit like trying to color in fine things with a fat magic marker as opposed to a colored pencil. So although it goes faster, I think you want to use sort of simpler shapes and motifs with if you're using like a DK or a worsted weight yarn. And in the end, I thought it was fun that it looked better on a shaky chair. This is it's a reproduction chair that's in the office. They wouldn't let us play with the real ones, but I thought it looked pretty nice on a shaker chair. And this is the picture of mine at the end. So what I'm hoping and inviting all of you to do is to sort of take it and run with it. And maybe think about whether you want to just do a trivet or a little tiny coaster, or if you're feeling really ambitious and doing a big rug. We would really love to share and at our future meetings, see what everybody's working on and send us pictures and get a look at what between us we all come up with.